our first speaker will be Susan D'Arborville, and she's from the ULT, and she started off her ULT life in New York, and now she is at Santa Barbara, and she will give us her ideas.
Okay. As you heard, I'm an associate of ULT, and ULT is a means of bringing together theosophical students without organizational trappings, so that we can study and reflect upon the teachings of the theosophical founders. And it operates in a practical way, much like the Commonwealth of Nations that we heard described by Jan Kind. So one of the things we have all noticed about the talks and our reflections in the various study groups is that we are all coming up with similar ideas on the same subject, and apparently that's one of the secrets of this ITC conference, which I'm now exposing, because when I heard it, I felt better. I was sort of worried about giving a talk, especially after so many speakers had talked on the same subject. You know, what if I say the same thing? But it was pointed out that saying the same thing only means that we actually all think alike, even though we're coming from different traditions, different backgrounds, all these sorts of things. Our thoughts are similar, especially when we're thinking about such high and important subjects. So I felt so much better, and you will be hearing some ideas from me that you've heard before, you know, but that's how it goes. One thing I will share with you, and this is something that I'm guessing that students in Philadelphia know. H.P. Blavatsky, that great American citizen in whose honor we are holding the conference. You know, as we know, this is HPB's birthday, 11/12 on our calendar. HPB lived for a while in Philadelphia. And there's still a restaurant in Philadelphia called the White Dog Cafe that many years ago I visited. And it still exists today, the White Dog Cafe. So I went on their website, and this is what they say about the name. The restaurant's name honors former resident Helena P. Blavatsky, founder of the Theosophical Society, which emphasized altruism, unity, and compassion in everyday life, who occupied the brownstone in 1875. The dog entered the story when Madame Blavatsky was laid low with a serious infection of the leg. Refusing to allow doctors to amputate, she addressed the problem by having a white dog lie across her leg, curing it all in no time. Now, I was interested to see if there was any other mention of this occasion, so I went to Sylvia Cranston's biography of H.P. Blavatsky, and there is a reference, not to the White Dog Cafe, but HPB wrote a letter to her sister Vera about an incident in Philadelphia where she had a serious infection of the leg and spoke of the master's healing cure. I don't know how it became the white dog, but... And it's interesting, someone asked me how I became interested in Theosophy, and I said, well, I first heard about it in high school when I was studying Yeats, and he was a member of the Theosophical Society, and the name H.P. Blavatsky always stuck in my head. And when I encountered it later, my interest had already been piqued. So we don't know what someone who goes to the website of the White Dog Cafe, and reads about HPB, what could happen later in their life that would lead them to deeper theosophical teachings. Let's see. Yeah, we've all been reflecting on the practical application of brotherhood and the concomitant ideas of the formation of a nucleus of universal brotherhood and healing. And we know that reflecting upon these teachings, these topics arouse our higher nature. We also know that the world is suffering from the pangs of what even HPB called the transition age, and we heard a reference to the transition age in an earlier talk. In this age, we strive to exemplify in practice the stirrings we get from buddhimanas, or intuitive discrimination based on unity, but we at the same time battle the instincts that helped us reach self-consciousness. But they now impede our journey to a more conscious life in spirit. And from our 21st century perspective, we can see the effects of the 19th century Theosophical movement. The minds of today recognize the process of globalization, and some embrace a transition to global consciousness, while others resist. But all are affected. And in a recent book entitled The Chrysalis Effect, The Metamorphosis of Global Culture, author Philip Slater begins with the analogy of the caterpillar transitioning into the butterfly, the same analogy that Thomas Paine used, and we encounter that in other cultures. But here's what he says. He draws on the work of an evolutionary biologist who says that when the caterpillar forms the chrysalis, inside the new cells, called by biologists imaginal cells, are formed in the caterpillar's body. But the caterpillar's original immune system sees them as a foreign threat and attacks them. However, the imaginal cells continue to form and grow and link together and eventually outnumber the original cells, and the transformation of the caterpillar into the butterfly is affected. We think this is an excellent analogy of what's going on in the world today. And to use the language of a student who was here yesterday, HPB came to declare the truth and with power and to challenge the thinking of her day. HPB, William Q. Judge, and H.S. Alcott formed the Theosophical Society in 1875 at the juncture of three great cycles, as we know. And we know at that time new ideas were abroad. The theory of evolution was shaking the scientific and religious communities, and it was resisted. But now it's pretty much the norm. Westerners thought that Judeo-Christian ideas were superior, but ideas from the East began to percolate at that time. And the great master's letter refers to Alcott's work in this manner. This is why Colonel H.S. Alcott, who works to revive Buddhism, may be regarded as one who labors in the true path of Theosophy. Buddhism, stripped of its superstition, is eternal truth. And today, we have heard mentioned several times the name of the Dalai Lama. He travels the world, meeting with followers of all traditions and backgrounds, promulgating brotherhood, mutual respect, forgiveness, and compassion. Buddhists from different traditions have formed centers in the West, and the followers of Hinduism have as well. There is a cross-pollination among newer and older traditions. Christian monks meet with Buddhist monks. rabbis converse with imams. Neuroscientists and psychologists study the effects of meditation together with members of various religious traditions, all with the aim of promoting dialogues about our common humanity. Comparative religion and philosophy is studied in schools and colleges. Scientists from all nations work together to combat climate change, and some brave scientists posit the ideas of intelligent design. The nuclei formed during the regenerative theosophical impulse continue to grow, both among students of Theosophy and among those who know these ideas under other names. As William Q. Judge noted, the Theosophical movement, being continuous, is to be found in all times and in all nations. Wherever thought has struggled to be free, wherever spiritual ideas, as opposed to forms and dogmatism, have been promulgated, there the great movement is to be discerned. The two world wars, as well as the continuing wars of today with the problems of global immigration and all the other problems, are reflections of the cells of the human family that are threatened by universalist ideas. And we see other resistance to theosophical ideas. I read a review in the New Yorker of a new book on Buddhism called Why Buddhism is True: The Science and Philosophy of Meditation and Enlightenment. And the reviewer called the ideas of karma and reincarnation, which were expressed in the book, supernatural. And he thought that it would be better if those were not part of the discourse on Buddhism. He really liked the sensible approach the author took to evolutionary psychology and the fine delineation in the book between emotion and feeling. But none of this karma and reincarnation stuff. A conservative Christian writer in a recent New York Times article was bemoaning the loss of worshipers and the failure of Christian ideas to permeate American culture, and he wrote wistfully and hopefully for the resurgence of monasteries in order to preserve and promote Christian values. Now, all of the things that we have been considering during the conference, everything we just heard, all of these ideas that help us to understand why universal brotherhood is not widespread, they were taken up by William Q. Judge in the address he gave at the Parliament of Religions in Chicago in 1893. And he said, "We have the theory, but not the practice." Now then, has there not been something wanting? It's a beautiful doctrine. It is the only doctrine of the Theosophical Society, the only thing that any man is asked by us to subscribe to. What then is the matter with it? Why does the Christian church say no state could live 3 months under such a doctrine? The reason, Mr. Judge says, is that the reason it has not prevailed in practice is that it has been denied in the heart. And further, he says, none of the present attempts at reform will meet success so long as they are devoid of the true doctrine as to man, his nature and destiny, and respecting the universe, its origin and future course. Now, all of the students that we have heard and we have heard mentioned in our study groups have turned to the writings of H.P. Blavatsky, and in fact, the ITC's first statement of purpose, as we know, is to maintain the principles of the modern theosophical movement presented by HPB as a living power in the minds of and hearts of humanity, encouraging explorations in the light of her teachings. HPB herself said in an article entitled The Organization of the Theosophical Society that the founders had two things they were primarily concentrating upon. They had to exercise all their influence to oppose selfishness of any kind by insisting upon sincere fraternal feelings among the members. And secondly, they had to oppose in the strongest manner anything approaching dogmatic faith and fanaticism, belief in the infallibility of the masters, or even in the very existence of our invisible teachers, having to be checked from the first. On the other hand, a great respect for the private views and creeds of every member was demanded. So, how does the study of HPB's writing help with the practical application of Brotherhood, the Nucleus, and Healing? Mr. Judge, because as we're focusing, as we know, as a group, on her teachings, Mr. Judge in Blavatskyism in and out of season warns against the slavish following of HPB as an authority without using discrimination and intuition. And at the same time, he pointed out that there is a proper time and place to emphasize HPB. And we would say that the ITC, as a gathering of HPB's students, is that time and place. We come together as students of HPB, creating a nucleus as we ponder her teaching and seek for ways to exemplify them in practice to promote healing. HPB's words serve as course corrections in the same way that the airplane's autopilot continually realigns the plane's trajectory when it strays off course. The truth behind the words touch the inner man and act to stimulate divine potential. Because theosophical ideas are presented holistically and comprehensively, even a phrase from HPB's writing can be life-changing and healing. And now I will read my favorite mantramic phrase from HPB, one of them. The inquirer asks, how then should theosophical principles be applied so that social cooperation may be promoted and true efforts for social amelioration be carried on? And the Theosophist answers, let me briefly remind you what these principles are. Universal unity and causation, human solidarity, the law of karma, reincarnation. These are the four links of the golden chain which should bind humanity into one family, one universal brotherhood. And we are reminded that the object of theosophical study is not individual development, but we should study to become true helpers of humanity. And one of the best exemplars of someone who could do this was Mr. Judge. He could take high metaphysical ideas and apply them practically. And so he talked about study. What is theosophical study? And we heard some of these ideas in earlier talks. It's not just reading a book and parroting the ideas that we find in the books, but he says, long, earnest, careful thought upon that which we have taken up. He points out that many students say, yes, I believe in karma and reincarnation. Then you ask them, what is karma? What reincarnates? And they can't really answer that. So he points out that study will give us a foundation. We need to know what the classes of karma are. Is karma punishment, or is it reward, or is it both? What actually reincarnates? All of these topics are important because, as we know, Mr. Judge was primarily concerned, we would say, about how to reach the ordinary man. He recognized that, he recognized that the problems of the day were, and we heard also this idea addressed, the suffering of humanity of the day was in part because people had no knowledge of the true nature of man, no understanding about how to go through life other than dealing with situations they found without guiding principles. And he said that our duty is to recognize the great human soul with which we have to deal and for which we should work. And we heard the notion of work in a really wonderful talk earlier. He pointed out that all of the ideas that we now hold are or all the books, our entire civilization, everything could be swept away by a cataclysm or climate change. But no cataclysm can destroy your thoughts. They live on, so that all the work that you do for the inner life of man can meet with no destruction, even though records and books and all the ingenious works upon this outer plane were swept out of existence. If then you believe in this mighty doctrine of reincarnation, do not be afraid to tell it. And this echoes the words of a student we heard earlier. He also points out, and this is something that we gathered from Study Circle in the talk on healing, the healing function, the speaker talked about the effect of the plant kingdom on us. And Mr. Judge talks about the effect of our thoughts on the lower kingdoms and how they can aid or retard, promote healing or promote destruction and ferocious thoughts. So it's the human duty to be aware of not only the human kingdom, but all the kingdoms in nature. So this, practically speaking, leads us to a consideration of duty. We've thought about duty as a group. Part of our duty is to discover our own personal duty or dharma in order to help effectively. And each one must follow his or her own path. And this means applying the teachings ourselves in a manner that we feel is most effective. Mr. Judge says about duty, what is the panacea finally, the royal talisman? It is duty, which he calls selflessness. Duty persistently followed is the highest yoga and is better than any mantras or any posture or any other thing. If you can do no more than duty, it will bring you to the goal. And, my dear friends, I can swear it. So I'm ending. This is my last paragraph. Sorry. Coming together to study the eternal ideas posited by the Theosophical founders is one of the many forms of devotion. The dynamic of group reflection proceeding from the recognition of the oneself allows us to hear with the inner ear the intuitive sense that catches the fleeting nuances of soul wisdom that might lie hidden behind ordinary words. Bonds of brotherhood are strengthened, which link us together in the manner of the imaginal cells we spoke of. creating and expanding the nucleus of global unity now and for the future. HPB says, let us not forget that Theosophy does not grow in our midst by force and control, but by the sunshine of brotherliness and the dew of self-oblivion. Okay.